All right, good morning. This is VirtualPBX-admin training. Looks like we're right at 10 o'clock, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. So as I said, this is for our Dash platform. If you're a vConsole customer, we don't offer live trainings anymore. However, if you go to our site under support, and so you go to vConsole support, you can find all of the archived training here. This is the advanced admin training. This is the complete admin training that we used to do the live trainings on. And then we have all the guides down here, as well as the support ticket information. From anywhere on the VirtualPBX website, you can click on Login. This takes you to our login page. Up here, you have the Dash login. I'm not sure that reminds me. Forgot to do something here. All right. Just below that, we have the web phone, and this is a device specific to Dash platform. Basically, it allows you to use a web browser. Currently, that is Firefox or Chrome. And then, on a desktop or even a laptop computer, using your internet connection, use that browser to make and receive phone calls. Currently, no other browsers are supported, nor are browsers on a mobile device, so cell phone or tablet. I've tried, didn't work. And then down below that, you have the vConsole login for our vConsole customers. For Dash, login is your email address, your password, and your company name. So, the big thing to remember about the username is that some browsers default by capitalizing the first character in your name. You want to make sure that you change that to lowercase. Dash is the correct case, I should say, because you could put it in capital. But the username and password are case sensitive. And then you are taken to your dashboard. So the dashboard is basically just a quick snapshot of what's on your system right now in terms of big macro kind of things. So users, these are fully functional users. They make and receive calls. They use multiple types of devices, like landlines, cell phones, or VoIP phones. They have features like call forwarding, hot desking. They can have their own fax box, for instance, things of that nature. Next, we have agents. Agents are specific to ACD queues. They are typically just receiving phone calls, and they're restricted to VoIP devices, and they don't have features like call forwarding, podcasting, etc. All right. Next up, we have your total devices, basically just showing you a breakdown of the kinds of devices you have on your system. You go over here to the right. These are your main numbers. So these are what your customers call typically to reach you and your staff. These numbers all behave the same way. So they have the same main greeting, they have the same basic routing, and they get to the same place initially. Total, your fax box number. This is for incoming faxes. And then total numbers, a breakdown of how many numbers you have and their type. Assigned numbers means those are numbers you are using. Spare numbers are numbers you're keeping on your account but aren't currently using. Now you are going to be paying for spare numbers. However, you're basically just keeping them for a future use or need. So like a seasonal promotion, that sort of thing. And then below that, you can always download the company directory. Account ID, that technically you can use to refer or let us know what account you're dealing with, which can be helpful if you're dealing with multiple accounts. However, we don't expect you to rattle that off to us over the phone. Usually we'll just ask you for your company name. Account realm, that's used for outbound faxing as well as for setting up a third-party VoIP device. And then let's go here to the top. Caller ID, this is the account caller ID. So you would want to choose one of your main numbers. The company caller ID name, otherwise known as CNAME or CNAM. Basically, it's text that shows up on a device's screen, letting basically names that just a number. A couple things to keep in mind about this: you're restricted to 15 characters, including spaces and special characters. This submission takes about 3 days to get updated among various servers, among various carriers. So we don't control all of the carriers or servers that are supporting CNAME. And then there are some slight caveats to go with this that we've run into. One, some calls will sometimes have to route through carriers that don't support CNAME, meaning that when a call goes through them, that information doesn't get passed down further down the line. So in that instance, the CNAME information you put in doesn't get transmitted. Even for carriers who do support CNAME, if they're having some sort of issue, so they had like some sort of maintenance issue or an outage, that's obviously going to impact CNAME. And then the last thing, which is relatively minor, if the device you're calling to has your phone number programmed into it, so for instance, a cell phone, whatever the device has programmed will override whatever we send out to the phone. Down below here, we have the company emergency or E911 address or enhanced 911. Basically, this is the address that if you pick up a VoIP phone and call 911, this is the address we send to emergency services. So you want to make sure that this is correct so that if that should happen, that the emergency services show up to the right place. And then click Save Changes if you do make any changes. Hold music, this is the default hold music on the system. You can always upload a file from your computer. Dash accepts .wav or .wave and .mp3 files. Currently, it's limited to about 1.2 megs. At least that's the most I've been able to upload recently. Our engineers are working on getting that back up to 5 megs, but I haven't been given an update. The main thing to remember about any media file that you upload to VirtualPBX or to Dash is to make sure that the file is in mono, not in stereo. Basically, when you listen to something over the phone, it's a mono channel that plays back to you. If you try to upload a stereo file, all you're going to hear is a lot of static. All right, let's go to main number. Hours actually goes to part of the main number section. So, all right, so main company numbers. Again, this shows you your main numbers, and you can add the gear icon here, caller ID, which is some of the information on the previous page, E911. And the other option here is prepend. So prepend is for VoIP devices. You can add additional text or numbers in front of the caller ID information that displays on the phone. So for instance, we go to the prepend here. So text to prepend, LV interest. So basically this comes in on the caller ID screen of the VoIP phones. So when my customer calls this 702 number, gets sent to one of my staff members on their phone, on my staff member's phone, it shows LV interest as part of the caller ID information, so they know what the call is about. Again, this only works on a VoIP phone. Office hour strategy, you're either open 24 hours, i.e. all day, or you change it to custom office hours, Each day of the week, you put a check mark in front of, and then you put your open hours in 24-hour or military time. And if you leave it unchecked, you're closed. You have this additional option right down here. If you put a check mark here, then this means your whole office or your whole business is closed for lunch. And then again, you would click Save Changes. Office holidays, you can set your holidays in advance. One thing to keep in mind is there's no year indicator. So for a holiday that changes its date, so let's scroll down here. Memorial Day is a good example, right? It's not always May 28th. It's going to change from year to year. You either want to change it after it passes or just delete it and then recreate it later. Whereas, let's see, 4th of July, it's always on the 4th of July in the United States. It's always a holiday. You can just leave it here and you're set. One thing to keep in mind, adding holiday, single day, great for just that one day. A date range is good for when the office is going to be closed for several days. The main caveat we're running into at this time of year is for New Year's. Because there's no year designation for New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, we recommend doing each of those individually. And then any other time frame, you can use the date range. And then advanced allows you to set up, here it is, test. Basically, a month, you can choose the first, whatever option here, and then you can choose a day of the week. So the first Monday in July, this office is closed. Incoming call handling, this is how your main numbers are routing calls. So the default option or the first option is call comes in, goes to a virtual receptionist. Virtual receptionist is a link, and it's going to open up a window here. Now on the left is your main menu. So this is what people press on their phones to navigate through your phone system. So if they press 1, they're going to, this is a ring group because it's got multiple little people here, to the Borderlands group. Right, 2, it's going to the school group. 3 is going directly to Ray. 4 is to our smart directory. And then 5 is going to Miguel's voicemail box. And again, you can create additional routes. This is your limitations, the number of routes. But then again, you can send it to any user. Call queues if you have ACD queues. Devices if you want to go to just a specific device. However, you're going to lose some of the features of it going to voicemail, at least on our system. So that's one thing to keep an eye on. Media, this basically plays back a message and then ends the call. The inbound caller can't leave a message, anything of that nature. Groups, again, ring groups or hunt group, and then voicemail boxes. And if you wish to get rid of it, you just click X. Over here on the right, these are your greeting options. Text to speech, you just type in your greeting and a computerized voice will then read it off. It's available immediately and it's good to go. Upload a file if you already have a file or you've been sent one. Again, .wav, .mp3 and mono, you can upload and use it here. If you already have many greetings, so for instance, say you have a greeting specifically for the holiday season, and then after the holidays, you can just go back to your previous main greeting. You can record it over the phone. So this, the system, whenever you see the system refer to a phone registered in the system or a registered phone, it is referring to a VoIP phone that's currently connected to the system. But basically then you can pick up the phone, dial a main number, and then enter the PIN code here, and the system will walk you through recording over the phone. Now, if you already have a greeting in place, so like you already have text-to-speech where you have already uploaded, you can still call in and record over the phone and use this PIN number. But basically what it is, when you call in, when you hear the established greeting play, you enter in the PIN number that tells the system, oh, they're going to re-record. And then it prompts you, walks you through recording a new greeting. And then that will replace the existing or the previously existing greeting. Excuse me. Next, we've got professional recording services. So we've partnered with another company called Snap Recordings, and they have their own pricing. The main advantage is they have something like 100 voice actors to choose from. They have different versions of English available, so like UK English versus American English versus Australian English, as well as bilingual options. If you click on order, for example, it will take you to their site, and they'll have all of their plans and options laid out. But basically, you've got just a standard message, so your main greeting, or you can also do a message on hold, so a mix of music and a script. And then they have various packaging as well. So if you make any changes in this window here, right, you click Save Changes. You also need to click Save Changes right here, and that way all of your changes have taken effect. All right, so this option here, call comes in. Again, it can go to a user, it can go to a group, can go to a media file, and then goes to virtual receptionist. So basically, typically speaking, you're trying to give staff member or members a chance to answer the call. If no one is able to pick up, then the inbound caller goes to a receptionist, and then they can enter in a menu option or extension. And then this last option, again, call comes in to user or group or media file, and then if no one picks up, goes to voicemail. This also has the option right down here, just go straight to voicemail. So again, like during your holiday season or what have you, or like a temporary closure. You have these other tabs up here. So this was our open hours option in calling options, right? After hours, you can set it up the same or differently. One thing you'll see here is that this is slightly different. So you can have a different menu option for after hours versus open hours, and again for holidays as well. If you're closed for lunch hours, that would also be yet another tab here. Okay. Your main fax box number, you can edit the fax box. This is basically saying, hey, where are we sending the faxes to? Numbers, this shows the numbers you have on the account. The red ones are typically numbers that were sample poured in samples. But generally speaking, you should see a number. This is where it's going. So ring group, person, call flows is either going to faxing or it's going to a ACD queue. You also have your spare number tabs up here. So these are numbers you're not currently in use. You have the option here to buy. So local, basically non-toll-free number. You enter in an area code. So we'll go 831. Search. And then you would simply add any numbers you want. And you would click on buy numbers, and it would verify that the numbers are truly available, and then add them to your account. Now, if you've just recently signed up and you don't have any phone numbers on your account yet, buying the numbers isn't going to increase your bill because most accounts come with at least one phone number, if not two. It's after you've gone through your allotment of numbers that there would be an increase in your bill, and that's generally speaking $4.99 a month per extra phone number. Toll-free, also pretty simple. You choose one of the toll-free prefixes, do a search, and again, you'll see what's available. And again, you can keep scrolling down, and the system will show you what's available. And then you click on buy numbers. Port is moving a number from one carrier to VirtualPBX or to any other carrier, basically. Moving numbers from one to another. Now, you would just click on new port request, and then you would follow the on-screen instructions. And here, not quite where I need to be. So unfortunately for me to show you all the steps, I'd either have to do a new port request or If you go to this web page here, we'll basically dash support porting, and it will show you all the screen steps that are involved. The main thing to remember when you're porting a phone number is you need to have an account on both sides of the port. So who you're porting from has to be an active account. Who you're porting to has to be an active account. Basically what happens is you submit the letter of agency or LOA to us. If it's a local number, we also need a copy of your most recent bill. We let you know, hey, we received it. Here's what to expect. Then we submit the port request. Basically, it ends up eventually to the other carrier. They tell us, yes, this is great. Here's your expected release date. Or if there's a problem, say, port rejected, and here's why. In either case, we will then let you know what's going on and what we would need. So in the case of a rejection, we almost always basically have to tell you, you have to contact the current carrier to find out what information they have. So they'll tell you, for instance, address mismatch. And that's all they'll tell us, that the address is basically wrong in some fashion. You would then have to contact the current carrier and say, what address do you have in file for this account? And that can be just simply as asking, what the address is, or you can ask for the customer service record for that number. They can email that to you. You can forward it to us, and then we can resubmit the port request with that update. Users. So this is all the users on the account. Adding a user, not really that hard. You put in their first and last name, you put in their email address, and then you create a password for them. By default, the system starts you off. Actually, the first user doesn't have an extension number, so you can choose it, and then the system will then modify each additional user in the next number in sequence. So if you started at 2000, the next extension number would be 2001, etc. In this case, the next available extension I have is 1005, meaning I probably deleted the previous user there. You can see here, I've got 1017, 1009, 1023, so had some turnover. Then you have the option here to include in company directory. Again, and the user you can always change that later. Send emails to an alternate email address, so you can put in additional email addresses than this one up here that you entered. And then the one I say you should always do, send credentials to this user. Basically, once you click on create, an email is generated and sent to the new user, so you'll have their login information, so they have it on file. But then they can go in and start looking around. And then you click on create user when you're ready. If you click on a user's name, again, you can always change the name. You can change their credentials, meaning their email and passwords. Here's where you would want to send additional addresses for notifications, including voicemail. Speaking of voicemail, this is where you change or create a PIN number for your voicemail box. Option to include in the user directory. Over here, this allows you to make a user an admin or vice versa. We've had a couple customers who were either in a rush or maybe not paying quite close attention, who they signed up so that their initial user is an admin. For whatever reasons, they changed themselves to a user, and then they click Save Changes, and then they logged out. When they logged back in, they were only a user. They didn't have any more admin functions. So try to avoid doing that. This is the time zone. So for anyone who's in a different time zone than the company is. This is language. These are your current options. And then save changes. So technically, users can have multiple extension numbers, actually. This is a better one to go to. So you see I have two different extensions, meaning that if someone presses 1000, it's going to go to my devices, or if they hit 1984, it will also go to my devices and to my voicemail. All right, phone numbers, basically this is a direct number that goes right to this particular user. Devices, shows the devices that you have on this particular user. If you have devices already on the account, you can add from spare and just move it over to the account. Here, we can. And you click Save Changes. Or if you need to add a new device, like, so SIP phone is a VoIP phone. Once it loads, there we go. So these are manufacturers that we support for what's called auto provisioning. You basically find your phone, find the model. It's going to ask you to put a name and then put the MAC address. And then you click on Create Device. Now, that means on dashboard or in Dash, it's been created. You still have to go to the phone and in the phone's UI, set it up for auto provisioning. Each phone is a little bit different. We do have instructions on our website. But basically, you set it up on the phone, you set it up here, then you reboot the phone. So unplug it from network and power, plug it back in, and basically connects to us. We load the config file, and then it should be ready to go at that point. The one caveat with VoIP phones is that it does rely on your network. So you might also have to do some router settings or adjust some router settings, excuse me. Cell phone, put a name, put +1 area code and phone number. And in fact, we click on here, go to options. This also applies to landlines. Allow use of cell phones voicemail basically means if the cell phone or device's voicemail picks up, we still treat it as a connected call. And so that means an inbound caller can leave the voicemail on your personal cell phone, for example. By default, when we send a call to a cell phone or landline, when you pick up, you're going to hear an automated message saying, this is a forwarded call, +1 to accept the call. Right? When you put the check mark here for allow use of cell phone voicemail, that doesn't come through. You still get the, this is a forwarded call, but you don't have to press 1. All right. Keep original caller ID. This means that inbound caller ID shows up on your cell phone. Right? If you uncheck it or leave it unchecked, then the VirtualPBX phone number or one of your main numbers that they dialed, that shows up as your caller ID. And then hide it from contact list, that's basically internal. So basically other staff members don't see your cell phone number. Soft phone. Basically a software application to make and receive calls on a computer, laptop, or a nowadays mobile devices. You can also use this to program a VoIP phone that didn't show up on the SIP phone list, whether it was on the same manufacturer but the model wasn't shown up there, or a completely different manufacturer. So in the case of a third party, you would basically name it here, and then you'd use the username, and then if you click on the back password box, and then the realm here, that's what you would use to program that third-party device or that software application. If you're going to use a VirtualPBX soft phone, you click here, again, and you name it. When you click on Create Device, we send you an email with your login credentials. For the VirtualPBX soft phone, there's 2 versions. There's a mobile version, which basically there's no charge. You just download it from the App Store or iTunes. For the desktop version, so Windows or Mac, there is a licensing fee for that. So you'd want to contact our billing team saying, hey, I want to get the desktop soft phone. And you can even tell them that you already added it to the system, you just need to pay for it. And that way, because once you've paid for it, then you get the download link to actually get the app on your PC. Web phone. You just put a device name and click on create, and then you can log in through the web page. Landline, yeah, basically it's the exact same as cell phone. Fax is for digital fax machine. I have not encountered a customer who's made use of one. I looked at buying one myself, but realized that's very expensive. If you're using an analog fax machine, you would actually want to use an ATA adapter and see if that will work. I don't really recommend it just because you're having an adapter is just another point of failure or incompatibility. And on Dash, you can already receive faxes. And if you want to send faxes out, you can send an email to support@virtualpbx.com, especially if your company has its own domain. We can add that domain to the fax box. So anyone with that domain can send a fax out from an email. All right, features. So caller ID number, this only comes into play if this user has a phone number. Turn it off or on, and then you can show this as your caller ID. If you have it off, you would use the main company caller ID. Call forwarding, by default, it's off. Failover mode means basically your VoIP device goes offline. We detect that, or Dash detects that technically, and then we'll just send any incoming calls to your cell phone, or basically whatever phone number you put here. And then on is just on. You're just forwarding it directly to your cell phone. Now, one thing to keep in mind, for call forwarding, you don't want that whatever device you're forwarding to, you don't want that as an active device on your user, right? So devices on your user, that should be something you're using basically every day. For call forwarding, that should be something that you use sporadically or only occasionally. Hot desking, this is for VoIP users. But basically, if you're in a shared office environment, so where people can be sitting at a different desk and thus at a different phone every day, you'd want to make use of hot desking. This allows those users to log into the phone that they're sitting at and still get calls that are directed to them. So someone calls in, dials 1000 to get to me. Doesn't matter if I'm sitting at my desk, at Julie's desk, at Bob's desk, or whatever. If I've logged in onto the VoIP phone, when customers dial 1000, they're still getting to me, or no matter which desk phone I'm sitting at. And that's how hot desking, or what hot desking was designed for. Voicemails, every user has a voicemail box. Just so you know, that created voicemail box for the users, it happens the same time you create the user. And they're intrinsically tied to that user. So you don't want to go under voicemails over here and delete a user's voicemail box. Because even if you try to recreate one manually, it's not going to be that same intrinsically tied to the user. And basically the only way to get that tied back together again is deleting the user and recreating it. Kind of problematic. Fax box, you can have a user have their own fax box. You can select one of your numbers to have a fax to. You can also assign it to an extension. Basically, you would create a new extension number. And so basically someone would fax in. They'd have to stay at their fax machine to enter in the extension number before the fax to go through. And then down here is the format of sending faxes out. So basically, you put +1 area code and phone number, and then this is your account realm. And then you attach a PDF or a TIFF, and that's who we send it out to. But it has to come from the user's email address. One thing to keep in mind when sending out the email to fax, it can only have one PDF or only one attachment. So we've had some customers have problems with their email clients that attach a signature file. So you probably want to disable that when you send out a fax. All right, follow me. This is for when you have multiple devices. How do you want the system to handle the calls that are coming to you? So right now on this, I have it going, it rings to a Yay link, which is a SIP phone, then to my web phone, and then to a soft phone. Right now, these are sliders, so I can, fiddle with the durations however I want. Or I can just click on distribute. I can even move the order. Click redistribute. Music on hold. So this is for when I put the person on hold. I don't currently have it enabled, but if I enable it, then I can upload or select a file. Right, upload would be if I have a new file. And then customize call recording. You don't have to make use of call recording, but if you choose to, this is how you enable it for the users. So inbound internal means I'm getting a call from another user on the system, right? Inbound external, means I'm getting a call from someone outside of Dash. So they called in on the main number or on my DID number, right? Outbound internal means I went and called one of the other users on the account. And then outbound external means I'm calling someone else. All right, next up we have groups. So groups, shorthand for ring groups or hunt group, can be used as a department. Basically, creating a group, pretty easy. You name it, you give an extension number. Let's see, since we just had Thanksgiving. And then you click and drag the users you want. Actually, we'll leave cat out in the group, and then you click create group. Okay, so got an error message. This can give you more information, but the main thing was this here. Field numbers must be unique. So that extension number I created was already in existence. So I'll bet it still made it. But there. All right, so click on the name. Dialing repeats, got little arrows here, you can increase it. Is how many times the inbound caller gets to ring everybody in the group. So right now, it's just gonna ring them once or twice each, or once each, right? If I want the inbound caller to have a second opportunity, I click it up. I believe it only goes up to 9. Oh. Ow. All right. Likewise, you can just type in the amount. If you click here under members, scroll down. All right, so these are the 5 people in my group. Now, up here, hard to see, but here, that's the maximum ring duration for the group. However, right now, each person is only rung for 20 seconds, meaning after the 20 seconds, the call stops. So obviously, I'd want to do something like this. Or click distribute, so therefore it just gates everyone so it goes through an order. If I'm said, oh, wait, I want Duke down here, redistribute, so therefore you adjust the order that way. And again, you can always have overlap. You can Oops. Helps if you click the right spot. And then you click on Save Changes. Extension number. You can always add additional extension numbers if you need to. Phone number, again, a direct number that goes directly into this ring group. So that way the inbound caller doesn't have to press menu options or anything like that. And then you have ring group features. Okay, call recording for a ring group. It's either off or it's on. Ring back, this is essentially hold music. So while they're waiting for someone to pick up, what do you want them to hear? Right, you can choose from something you've already have uploaded or upload something new. So for instance, if you use Snap Recordings and had them do a custom music on hold and script, you could upload it here, for example. The one thing to keep in mind about the ringback is you want it to be at least as long as that ring duration. So 120 seconds is the default. You don't want it shorter than that. Next action should be usually I recommend enabled, but basically if no one answers, what do you want the system to do with the call? You can have them go to the main menu. You can have them go into any of the voicemail boxes. Excuse me. Allow call forward. This allows, if you enable this, it basically allows the users to have calls forwarded to their other devices. All right, if you don't have it enabled and for whatever reasons, they're not by their desk VoIP phone or their VoIP phone loses connection, then it's not going to get forwarded to their mobile device. And then caller ID prepend. You can put a name prefix or a number prefix. So basically, especially if you have staff members in multiple groups, this helps them know, oh, this is about Thanksgiving versus 4th of July or whatever. And again, only works on a VoIP phone. There's no charge for groups, and you can obviously have quite a few groups on the account. Next up, we have devices. So these are all the devices on the account. Red typically means not connected. Black lets you know it's disabled. And then green says, as far as we know, it's enabled / connected. So cell phones, there's not a constant connection, but we know, hey, it's active, so we should be able to reach out to it. Right. Next, we have the name or the MAC address, or name and MAC addresses in the case of a physical VoIP phone. And then the user it's associated with. You can enable or disable it, and then the features. You can always add devices here as well. It just means if you add them on the devices page, if they're not associated to a user, meaning once that user is available, let's say you were given a bunch of phones to add to the account, but they're like, oh, we don't have the users yet set up for it. You know, once they say, oh, we haven't hired the people for them yet, you can add the phone so that they're ready to go. And then said, hey, we hired Bob, and he has we just add him as a user. Can you put a phone to him? You would go to his user and add from spare devices. If you click edit here, you can see some of check here. So again, you can get the username and password there if you need it. You can assign that E911 for regular VoIP phone. Anything here is to notify when unregistered, as well as you can send a restart request. You can also set up combo keys for some. or for most phones. So presence is usually the main thing people do, or speed dial, and then you can enter the phone number. Voicemail boxes, these are all the voicemail boxes on the account. Notice that most of them right here, this lets you know that, okay, this is the name of the voicemail box. This is the user that it's associated with, right? So that's the intrinsically tied one. So, for example, you can create a new one for, like, say, a ring group, but if I just create a new voicemail box, here it is, it's Bob Smith, but it's not associated with Bob. And there's no setting or anything I can do to make it tied in with Bob. So when you manually create a voicemail box, again, this is generally designed for either just a mail-only box or for your groups. You'd want to set it greeting media, right? So some kind of, sorry we missed your call, leave a message. Either one that you already uploaded or you upload a new one. Recipients, you would then add email addresses here. And you can have multiple, you just have to add them one at a time. And then you would go to options. Now for voicemail boxes, we recommend that you delete after notification. So basically once the system has sent an email with that voicemail notification and the voicemail message, it deletes it off the system. And that's because Dash only holds up to 100 voicemail boxes, or 100 voicemail messages. And as far as I've been told, that's for the account, not for a particular voicemail box. Also, once you've uploaded greeting media, you'd want to click on a checkbox here for already set up. And then click on Save Changes. Okay, agents, again, this is for ACD queues. Similar idea, you add a new agent, first name, last name, email address, password, give them an extension number, and then send the credentials to them. And then click on Create. Again, very similar. Not sure why you can make them an admin since they're technically just an agent. And then you can convert them to a user from an agent. But extensions, phone numbers, again, the same idea. And then devices. You notice that these are all some type of VoIP phone. And then the cell phones are listed. And when you do new device, you're restricted to SIP phone or soft phone. Feature codes. We actually also have this published on our website, so you don't have to just come in here to find them. So call center, so this is for ACD queues. They can log in over the phone and log out versus having to go through logging in through a web page. I'm usually in an ACD queue myself. I usually just use the web page because it's easier for me. Users can initiate call forwarding from their VoIP phone. So like they know I'm going to be at a customer site, but while I'm in transit, I'll have any calls that come to go to my cell phone. So they can set it up on their phone. Again, they can also set it up through the website. Hot desking, again, log in and out of a phone. Direct to voicemail, meaning they're transferring someone and they're just going to hit ** to send them straight to voicemail. Move is actually to send a caller from one device to another on the same user. So from cell phone to VoIP phone. Call logs. These are basically, this might not be a good example, but shows call activity on the system. You can click on the little icon and get additional information. And then you can have some other options here. Now, some other things as an admin. Up top, okay, right now we're on the dashboard. This is a little hamburger menu. Next up, we have queues. So this is where you would add or adjust your queues. So adding a new queue. You can select a specific phone number from a spare number or assign an extension. Basically, if you're assigning an extension, it's where your staff members are transferring to, typically speaking. I'll select the spare number. And then once you create it, you can also then add it back into your main menu. Okay, queue routing strategy. Basically, how is the queue dividing calls between the members? So round robin, basically random. Least calls means the least number of connected calls. So if Bob has had, talked to 5 people, Mary's only talked to 1, Mary's getting the next call. And she'll continue getting that first call that comes in until she gets up to 5 connected calls, in which case then it goes round robin. Least offers means who's been offered the least amount of calls. So not necessarily connected calls, just means their phone rang. Right? And then most idle, who's been waiting the longest for a call. Again, you can have the whole treatment. You can use any media file you have on the account. And you can also have the option here to upload. Queue timeout, basically how much time the inbound caller can wait on hold. I still don't know why they don't have this set up in minutes, hours, and seconds versus just seconds. It seems like a hard conversion. Queue call limit, basically how many people can wait. And when you have 0, basically means unlimited. Timeout immediately if empty. So basically, if you don't have any agents logged in, instead of having someone waiting there on hold, you just say, hey, just time them out immediately. Escalation queue, this would be if no one answers in this queue, you can send them on to another queue. Obviously, that means you're paying for it. Or you can have the escalation call flow after timeout. Basically, no one answered. What do you want the system to do? Normally, it's going to send them to a voicemail box. All right. So agent recovery time, basically after they're done with the call, how many seconds do you give them? So that way they can finish wrapping up a ticket, get a sip of water, that sort of thing. Force away after rejected or missed. Basically, if an agent doesn't pick up the call that's offered to them, the system just puts them on away mode. That means the agent then has to put themselves back in ready to accept calls. And then agent connect timeout, basically how much time you're trying to connect to the agent before you move on to the next one. And then you click on create queue. And then let's say this queue is still in process. And that can take a few minutes. You can always click on settings next to an existing queue. All right, these are all the settings we saw before. Quite sure why that isn't created yet. And then to add agents, just click and drag the people. Now this only select agents that you have created, right? So not users. Okay, blacklists. This allows you to block calls coming into your system. So you would edit a blacklist. And then you just put +1 area code and phone number. And click save. Click back to settings. And to make sure it's active, you move it into the selected section and click update. Okay, faxes, this is to see your inbound fax boxes. As an admin, you can get to any fax box and see what's going on. I don't know that we have a lot of faxing on this account. Outbound faxes, again, you can check, and then email to fax logs. This one's actually kind of important. So if you're sending a fax out, or a staff member is sending a fax out and they encounter an error, you can see the details will be here. There'll be an icon you can click on and it'll give you more information. Normally it's something like give you like a bad file type, meaning someone tried to send something that wasn't a PDF, that sort of thing. Monitor, this lets you see the current status of all your staff members. So green means they're waiting to take a call or make a call. Red means they've marked themselves away. Blue means they're on an inbound call. Yellow/gold means they're on an outbound call. Recordings goes to a separate website to look at your call recordings. User portal, this is what your standard users see and you yourself can get to, but basically they can see their own voicemails, they can listen to them, they can download them to their system. Any call history, their own fax log. Contact list is a company directory. Here they can monitor any kind of conferencing. So if you have conferencing enabled on your system and they have Conference Bridge, so you can invite other staff members. You can lock it so no other people can come into an existing. Then you can mute everybody, unmute everybody, or end the call. And when you have participants here, you also can individually, you can mute them or deafen them or kick them out. And then settings and devices. Again, they can send voicemail and email. They can check that. They can also add additional email addresses. Here's the devices. They can also enable the call forwarding here. Voicemails, kind of like the fax mailbox. Right, you can get to any voicemail box as an admin. And then webhooks is if you've signed up for webhooks, but basically allows you to use tie in an API into the system so you can get some real-time reporting. And that is everything on Dash. Just so you know, in case you ever need a refresher or you want to have other staff members come in, under our Dash support page, you can have these new trainings. And this one here, the new user training, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, these are all here. Plus we have the various guides with shots where appropriate. So here's like adding VoIP devices, auto provisioning phones. Also, if you've never used VoIP phones before, you're going to want to look at the network configuration for VoIP phones. Pardon me. But that covers VirtualPBX training. Thank you for your time and have a wonderful rest of your week.